couple days ago we started reading this article. I'm gonna get a little bit more in. Make sure y'all share, hit this like button, subscribe to the channel. It seems like once you click on that Nolan Wells topic, you get flooded with that information. Keep refreshing your channel. Well, I'm on a cell phone, so I stroll down and it refreshes. So I click the home page, and that's all I keep seeing. All the videos. This Nolan Wells thing. And so many people making videos that everything that's coming out, any new information, it's hard to be like the first one to get it and break it, because it's thousands of channels making like giving updates. It's kind of hard to believe everything because it's so much, and everybody's saying different things. But it's good because some of that stuff you can take it and use it for analyzing. Some people just saying stuff to throw off the truth, to get people to not get to the truth. You know what I'm saying? They working for the maybe the judge, maybe they're working for certain people that they don't want to be looked at as they were participating in this cover up and a conspiracy and corruption. They could lose their jobs, a lot of them people. Or have a bad name, and that'll lead to worse than losing your job. So I'm just sitting back waiting. And this ain't the only case. There's a whole bunch of other cases going on in the same state, in Mississippi. You want to know the real deep stuff that people don't like to look into? All these fraternities, and they do rituals and stuff like that. Colleges and stuff. That's the stuff that need to be looked into. But they won't do it because these college fraternities are connected to Freemasonry. Freemasonry connected to the government. The George Washington and them was Freemasons, and that's connected to the military and the army and all of the military agencies. And this is part of the reason why in the military you have a lot of reports of women getting raped, but nothing is ever done about it. They might discipline them, however, but it's not like a real court system. They got their own system. On military campuses, they got military police. They don't got regular police report. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's almost like they in a whole different system than, you know what I'm saying? And like so the politicians, they work for, like, I don't know how to explain it, man. It's all one big gigantic connection where you won't even think Ben Crump and them dudes is connected to Donald Trump. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. They members of the same clubs, not just being in the same country, born in the same country. They share a lot in common. Like, they both got to report to England to talk to them dudes over there that gave them permission, because the black people that started the Freemasons, Prince Hall Masons, they went over to England to get their permission, right? So I guarantee they gotta go do like reports. You know how you seen Trump with the yarmulke on and he was kissing the wall and all that stuff. So these are like certain rituals they have to do. Trump did another thing where he went to a grave site. They take orders from these Kabbalists on what events they want to create, what type of false flags operations they want to put out. Because you got to remember, the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, and the FBI, they was getting paid. They probably still do, to discredit certain leaders in the black community. This is how COINTELPRO started, or to discredit anybody fighting for justice and freedom peacefully, non-violently. They came in, disrupted these movements, and made them look like they were violent and aggressive and stuff. That's why Malcolm X was saying the media turned the victim into the villain. Have you loving the oppressor and hating the one who's being oppressed. So like the stuff that goes on with these organizations and these groups is serious, man. I'm gonna roll up a little. Got some Reggie Miller for real. This dude done gave me some homegrown. Lied to me and told me it was some cookies, Girl Scout cookies, I guess. I really don't even want to smoke this. I might just smoke a little bit of this other stuff I got because, man, this is like worse than Reggie. But it's back up. If you ain't got nothing, I'm gonna give it away probably if I find the right person. I gotta give me some more, but eventually. I don't really get donations and support like that. So I don't really be calling my Cash App out. But I will let y'all know if y'all do want to support. Always appreciate it. The Cash App is $Devon Bey, DEVONBEY. PayPal is casperthegreat@gmail.com. CASPATHEGREAT@gmail.com. Casper the Great. So the stuff that we be going into, just reading and information, is the stuff that government spend billions and millions of dollars so you won't get this information. They will pay a politician $1 million a year just to come out there and put out policies that has nothing to do with government. They will never teach y'all about true government, origins of government, who has authority. Did God institute governments? They want you to think that they'll take certain scriptures from the Bible, say so certain believers that believe in the Bible may have jobs in the government, or they may just be a government advocate. So they'll say things like, well, submit the government and stuff like that, not knowing that that scripture was talking about the family. Who's the government in Israel? Some elected men? Wasn't it like leaders of the tribes? Moses. God didn't even appoint Moses as a leader over everybody. He told Moses to go and organize the people and tell them to go, escape through the wilderness. And that was a certain period in time. But from the beginning, he never gave a man-made system or like a civil government. This is why, like, Christ's disciples, they didn't get elected. You know what I'm saying? He made them disciples. But at the same time, the Roman government had their own government. They probably was running things like how the way government how you see today. You know what I'm saying? So in the word you see how God intended things, how he set up things when you read and study it, and then you see today how man tried to implement things that is an imitation of what God created and instituted, but it's a corrupted version of it. So I gotta charge this phone before it die. 14% on here. Oh, it is charging. So we are gonna be searching through the scriptures to learn more about government. This is important, especially in this Nolan Wells case, seeing that a lot of lies are being told, and you know what I'm saying. And this is exactly proof that God never instituted. This is the reason why, and it shows you that God never instituted a man-made government. Remember, after the flood, he told Noah to go out and populate the world, and it was like so many years of history that God never instituted a civil government or man-made government. Moses and them was not the government because that was only for Israel that had to keep them commands. That wasn't for the, well, he told the Egyptians to let their people go so they could serve God, but it wasn't for them to serve God. That the you know what I'm saying? They had their own customs and culture. So God just wanted the Israelites to be out of their oppression and slavery, out of slavery from the Egyptians. So he told Pharaoh to send, he sent Moses to send messages to Pharaoh. But when, Moses was the leader and after they went through the Exodus, he didn't tell Moses to go out and enforce them laws to other nations. Remember? They went to war with other nations, remember? David and they had to take the land of Canaan from the Canaanites, remember? The Joshua the spy and all that stuff. If they was just supposed to all keep the same laws because God instituted a civil government, it wouldn't have been no need for them to go to war to take the land of Canaan because they would have just submitted to the laws and they would have got arrested and put in jail. But God made them go to war. So you can see that, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is backed up by the scriptures. Now we're going to go deeper into it and read it and study it and analyze and learn what you've been taught and what they told you what government was a lie, and it was a mockery of God. Yeah, God is the creator. He controls everything. He's the only judge and lawgiver as God. Man's judgments and man's laws are an interpretation of God's laws and God's judgments. That's all it is. So when y'all see man-made laws and stuff like that, that's an interpretation of the Most High's laws. That's all. So I want y'all to understand these things. We are going to get into this article. We're going to learn a lot, man. And this is going to be a blessing because so many people, they talk about these things, like with the Nolan Wells case, all of the other cases that's going on in the state of Mississippi, where you got black children dying. People are talking about these things and they not even having an understanding that these people ain't government. They're a bunch of criminals and fraternities and stuff like that. George Washington, when he started the government, he was a Freemason. So you telling me you got to be a Freemason to be in the government? That's not a real government then. That's a fraternity. It's a sorority, a secret society. So this is where you get the 3/5 of a man and, all men were created equal, but y'all was owning slaves and stuff like that when you was writing that. So this is why a lot of people know that, well, the Constitution, they don't even believe in that. So this is where you know that, well, where these laws come from? They came from a man who had an opinion. When they escaped England, they started making up contracts where they can never be put back in slavery again in Great Britain, right? When the Europeans left Great Britain and came to America, and they said they started a government, right? That's what this is all about. Go do the history and do the research. So now, knowing about God's word, knowing the government that God set up and instituted, and then comparing it to this government that we have today, we can learn a lot. We can discern. We can prove what's the good and acceptable and perfect will of God and what is not. This is what the scriptures is for. This is why we have to meditate in this word day and night. Nobody's coming out with this type of, if you got people exposing corruption inside the government, nobody's telling you that they're not even government to begin with. Family is the government, only government God instituted. They can call themselves all they want. That don't mean that God put y'all there. Just like you can call your church the Baptist or the Church of Nazarene, that don't mean God put it there. A man built the building, a man gave y'all permission to call yourself a church, and a man help y'all do everything else. But you believe in God, you believe in the Bible, so you want people to believe that God is in behind everything that's happening in this building. But we know the truth. Having our senses discern. Yeah. This is the type of information, y'all, that I don't like to try to give you commentary if it's not needed, because this article is very informative. So I just give it and put it out. Try to spread the information across different places. You know what I'm saying? Make sure y'all go follow me on TikTok. Brother Devon Music on TikTok. All right, it's time for me to start cooking, y'all. Get a notepad, get a pen, so you can take notes. All right, let's go. Small ass joints, right? When the bills is due and you ain't got it, man. You can't do what you can't afford. Hopefully I'll buy another ounce soon, though. All right. So we are going to talk about, this is the way family base. Where did these kingdoms, pharaohs, and kings come from? So we know in the beginning, God never made Noah a king. He never made Adam a king, right? We didn't get kings to David. So where did they come from, y'all? Get a version of the Bible out and let's get to work. This is the way family-based, some same language nations came into being. So God never created nations. God created languages. He divided the people into different language groups. He never created nations. Remember, he said, well, the people are all united and they all have one language at the Tower of Babel. Let's confound them and mix up their language. That still didn't make them nations. What were the nations called? He created languages and divided people based on certain languages, barriers to certain geographic locations. Still not nations, right? So nations are not civil governments. Nations are not kings. The first actual mention of some type of civil government is found in Genesis 11. Yeshua and his father went down to the plain of Shinar from heaven to see what was going on. They went down to earth to see the construction of a great city and its high tower with its top reaching toward the heavens. This was the first kingdom of mankind ever described in the Bible. It was the first kingdom of men, and a man named Nimrod was its master builder. Nimrod was the first man on earth to be described as a mighty man and a great hunter. Whatever he was or was doing, it was interesting enough for God and Yeshua to visit and inspect. So goddamn Satanists. So these Satanists like to infringe on our religion. They do little spying and eavesdropping and stuff like that. And it's a part of COINTEL, but it's all gonna get exposed. It's and revealed in due time. And y'all will probably be under investigation from the forces of God. Let's continue. Lifelong investigation. This ain't gonna stop. This ain't no government investigation. This is something higher than the government. God created everything, so we give all the glory back to him. So I'm not one of them dudes on YouTube that's gonna make it look like, well, I'm not doing this and I don't want to offend these people. No, I want to offend you. If you are offended, that's good. I want to offend you. Not me, the word of God. Just let this word convict you and offend you, not me. This was the first kingdom Recall the fate of that first kingdom of the earth. Remember what happened? God said there is no stopping them from congregating in one place on the earth. God previously told Adam and then Noah to go out into the earth, but instead the people remained all together in one place in Nimrod city. So as an inducement to obey him, God confused the language of all the people. It was all Babel. They could not understand each other. As a result, the construction of the tower and city ceased. The great unified city of mankind was abandoned. The kingdom of Nimrod was no more. Now, what's the point? The point is that God went to see the kingdom men were building. This seems like odd behavior. If God establishes kingdoms, God did not likely establish the kingdom and then forget about it, so he had to go visit it. Instead, God caused it to be abandoned and ceased its existence. Again, this is strange conduct for those maintaining that God establishes the kingdoms of the earth. For Romans 13 fans, was Nimrod in this kingdom one of the authorities established by God? No evidence in the text suggests so. The text indicates just the opposite. God put an end to this kingdom. Fast forward to Genesis chapter 12 and verse 15. Here, Abraham and his wife, Sarai, were in Egypt, and Abraham feared that his beautiful wife would be taken by the Pharaoh, who in turn would kill Abraham to free her from their marriage bonds so Pharaoh could lawfully have her all to himself. Here's how Pharaoh and his princes are presented. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Since Abraham, however, lied and told Pharaoh that his wife was his sister, Abraham remained alive. Let us stop here. What do you see happening in chapter 12? We see there was a man called Pharaoh, and there were others called princes who seemed his subordinate officials. Pharaoh is a title for an Egyptian king. Perhaps the term means the sun or sun god or the great house. We know nothing about how this man came to be Pharaoh. Was he elected? Was he appointed by the sun itself? Was he simply the strongest family in the region and declared him in charge? Perhaps he took the kingdom by force, by fraud, by blood, or a combination thereof. We don't know. The Bible does not say. Perhaps he controlled land and agriculture and made others dependent on him for food and survival. It would be difficult to migrate away from the Nile area which he controlled, and harder still to find land to work and produce food in a desert environment. Perhaps Pharaoh controlled regional food production. Recall the reason Abraham went to Egypt in the first place. There was a famine in his land. He went to Egypt for his food. This is all very interesting. We cannot say that God placed Pharaoh on the throne. We cannot say that the Egyptians placed Pharaoh on the throne. The scripture does not say how he came into this power. We know that Pharaoh was the king, and he had a reputation for killing the husbands of beautiful women. We know he took women and made them his wives without their consent. Sounds like the military. That's what y'all do in the United States military. All them rape cases they got in the military. I believe y'all just grab whatever woman y'all want, have sex with her, and say, you're my wife now. After y'all cut the, I don't know what type of rituals y'all doing in there. There's too much stuff going on. When I seen them reports on West Point in the military base in New York State, West Point, outside of Newburgh, New York, man, they don't do nothing about that stuff, man. They don't do nothing. They don't go to the federal courts, none of that stuff. They got their own little system, like I was telling y'all earlier. And this is why, like a lot of them people like Charlie Kirk and all that, like a lot of them people be in the military, like the DC sniper and some of the terrorists and the mass shooters and all that. Man, where they getting all these weapons with all these bullets? Some of these people, when they get arrested, they be having hundreds of rounds of ammunition and all that stuff, man. They be in gun clubs or something. I don't know what it is, but all right, so we know that Pharaoh was the king, and he had a reputation for killing the husbands of beautiful women. We know he took women and made them his wives without their consent. We know Pharaoh gave orders and others obeyed, and that he controlled his borders and deported those whom he desired to deport, eventually including Abraham and his wife. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 20. We know Pharaoh knew something of the law of marriage, even if he ignored its formation by mutual consent. We know he took wives by force. Perhaps this is also how he took his kingdom, by force, not consent. Finally, God told Pharaoh to give Abraham's wife back, or else he would come to be afflicted. He would continue to be afflicted with great plagues. We know Pharaoh listened to God. Infamously, Pharaoh may have said to God, I did not have sex with that woman. Abimelech, king of Gerar, said about the same thing. Genesis 20 and verse 4. President William Clinton said the same thing many centuries later. Apparently, this is a popular line. God did not say to either, you are no longer Pharaoh or king. God only said, you better give her back or else. This is the glorious introduction to the first Pharaoh referenced in Genesis. He was a man inclined to murder, a man who takes what he wants by force, a man who controls land and agriculture, a man who determines who can reside in his kingdom, a man who can order others to do his will, and
a man who God punished for defiling the marriage covenant of Abraham and Sarai. Here's a man who believes he is the law. This is not a good start for civil government. Is this the pattern for all dictators, kings, prime ministers you listening up, Netanyahu, and presidents to follow? Is this what God instituted? Let us continue our search. The next mention of kings after a discussion of Pharaoh and Abraham in the biblical record comes in Genesis 14. This describes a period between approximately 2075 all the way up to 2275 years into human history from creation. That is a long time before God bothers to mention kings. In this chapter, 4 kings from outside of Palestine invade and fight against 5 Canaanite kings. Kings by country or nation at last. So is God in the business of setting up these kings and these nations? Which nations he created to encourage families and the knowledge of God? So, not so fast. Notice that the text merely describes the existence of these kings. It never says or implies God set any king on any throne for any nation. It never says or implies God set any sword in a king's hand or commanded submission to a king. These 9 kings have no different pedigree than Pharaoh, except we are not told if Pharaoh went to war. What is the final contribution of these 9 kings to a better society that the Bible notes? Is it to do justice? No. Is it to punish murderers? No. Is it education or social welfare? No. Is it the administration of justice or the protection of religious liberty? No. Are the people paying taxes to these things? Are the people paying taxes to these kings as a minister of God? God never says that. The first thing we see about these kings is that they made war. Genesis chapter 14, verse 2. War is the way of kings from the beginning. Remember that when the next war comes around, nothing new to see here. Remember that. So, what acts of justice did they further? The kings in war took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abraham's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions and went their way. In other words, they made war, killed their enemy, took booty and prisoners as slaves. Genesis chapter 14, verse 11. It's a bad start for kings. Can you claim God is the author of this warmongering arrangement? Perhaps our response to all this is to at least declare in nationalistic prowls we support the troops. God had previously declared the men of Sodom were wicked and great sinners against the Lord. Genesis 13 and 13. This situation 500 years after the flood is looking like the situation 500 years before the flood. Now it is wicked sinners. Then it was wickedness and evil continually. And what is God doing about it? What is God doing about it? Is he having a deja vu? Maybe it is time for Abraham to be king of the world. Perhaps some of the 9 kings went to war to punish Sodom and Gomorrah. But does God need them to do that? Surely he can execute justice against Sodom. Why is it we are always rooting for more human power and can't wait for God? Yet, we know the story. God eventually judges these cities with fire. He does not need Abraham's help. He does not need warmongering kings to do the job. Abraham is no king, but nations and kings shall come from him. As for Abraham, eventually changed to Abraham, far from establishing an earthly kingdom to judge Sodom, God proposes something infinitely better. He says that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. He affirms that I have chosen him that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. Genesis 17, verse 18 and 19. So God's purpose is that Abraham should command his children. God talks to Abraham about his family and his responsibilities. He says nations will come from him, but he is not made a king. He does not say that Abraham should be a king and wage war. He does not say that Abraham should punish murderers. God stays on point with nations and using nations to further his will, to encourage families and advance the knowledge of him. It's the same theme from the beginning. The fact that these kings arise doesn't change anything. And when they hinder his plan for Abraham, they get cursed. He does not say to Abraham, Sodom is evil. I want you to go over there and kill them all before they kill you here. Kill them all there before they kill you here. Instead, God says he will take care of the situation. God says, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know. So this is God's business. And Abraham says to God, shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? See what is happening? God is the judge of all the earth. Sodom is just one city. God is the judge of that too. God retained his authority to judge mankind and put to death the lawless. Abraham did not have that authority from God. Abraham knew what was right and wrong, but this did not mean he was clothed with the authority to do anything he wanted. He had the authority to take back his nephew and his possessions because of his familial authority, but he did not have the authority to wage a general war against other nations or cities for the children's sake, or because it was in his national interest, or because of national security. Such a claim would be seen for what it is, an arrogant usurpation of authority not granted. It is the claim of tyrants promising freedom. Abraham knows his place to fulfill his duties to his own children, to fulfill his duties to his own children. Command your children, not the people or kings of Sodom. God is acting the same as before the flood. He will judge when he is good and ready. He does judge the city when his criminal investigation reveals there are not even 5 righteous persons left. Would God destroy the righteous with the wicked? No. God directed his angels to escort the simpleton Lot and his stiff-necked wife and 2 daughters out of the city before its destruction. This was 4 people. When God destroyed the human race the first time at the flood, he preserved 8 people in Noah's family and destroyed the rest. God has a lot of patience, knows how to save, and knows how to judge. So, approximately 2075 to 2275 years into human history from creation, our brief introduction to pharaohs and kings is marked by murder, use of force, defilement of marriage, deportation, enslavement, theft of property, and war. Again, we may ask, what does language, family, migration, and nations have in common? Each preceded and stands independent by the will of God from any civil government which may arise by the will of human beings. Nations are a means unto an end. Encourage family and knowledge of God. Why is Abraham's covenant of nations, kings, and specific land not a model for the nations? I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant to be God to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and to your offspring after you the land of your sojourners, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Genesis chapter 17, verse 6 to 8. But You shall keep my statutes and my rules, and do none of these abominations, either the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For the people of the land who were before you did all of these abominations, so that the land became unclean, lest the land vomit you out when you make it unclean, as it vomited out the nation that was before you. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 26 to 28. Let's talk about Abraham's covenant. We have ventured 2,275 years in the human history. The covenant regarding marriage and family God made with Adam and repeated in a modified format to Noah and his offspring remains in effect and continue to this day. Nothing has changed there. Likewise, God has been and remains the king and judge of the earth, its people and nations. Nothing has changed there. But something new is now introduced. God makes a promise to Abraham saying, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. He said, I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you. God will give him and his offspring all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. Genesis 17, verse 6 to 8. The sign of this covenant is male circumcision. Genesis 17, verse 11. Any male of Abraham's seed not circumcised is cut off from the covenant and significantly from the right to possess the specific tracts of land promised by God. Genesis 10 tells us that nations shall come from families other than from Abraham. Nations have arisen from non-Abrahamic clans, so Abraham is not granted a monopoly on nations. Nations are a byproduct of Noah's covenant to take dominion over the earth. Yet, there's something new here. God did not need to covenant with Abraham to do what every other family was doing. God goes beyond Noah's covenant and adds additional terms and benefits to a new covenant he is making with Abraham and his heirs. Let's be clear what we are talking about. God's covenant with Abraham to make nations from him is not new. What is new is God promising that kings shall come from Abraham's offspring, and his offspring shall receive a grant of specific land. God said to Noah and his offspring, marry, have children, and spread out among the earth, which is yours for food, labor, and enjoyment. Abraham was subject to that covenant. Now, God is adding that kings will arise from Abraham's offspring, and his offspring will be given specific tracts of land, which God will later define. This is something different. Another covenant is agreed upon. It is not Adam's covenant. It is not Noah's covenant. A new covenant with Abraham and his offspring is promised, which Abraham accepts by faith and verifies by circumcision. Let us explore what is and is not being planned. The covenant, people and nations, kings and land. The covenant God made with Abraham has three major legal dimensions. It also has a spiritual meaning. God's covenant with Abraham established faith as the key to redemption from sin and death. This aspect is important, but does not concern us here as we are examining the legally enforceable terms of the covenant. First, Abraham's descendants are to be numerous and form many nations. Second, kings shall come from these nations. Third, these nations and kings shall occupy the land of Canaan forever. Nations, kings, and specific land. It is not our purpose here to explore these three in depth, but to simply observe some general principles that we can hang on to in our search for how to think about civil government from God's point of view. First, Abraham's descendants will form many nations. We've already seen that God created different languages so that the people should spread out over the face of the earth and exercise the authority they were given as family members. The earth's families, separated by language, spread out by their clans across the Fertile Crescent in Mesopotamia after Babel fell. Nations resulted from this language-based clan migration. Genesis chapter 10, verse 32 says, the clans of the sons of Noah according to their genealogies and their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. So when God specifically promises to Abraham that his descendants would form many nations, it is not a new concept. In the past, Noah's sons and their nations spread out across the face of the earth and created nations. Now God has promised to make nations specifically from Abraham's descendants, including both Isaac and Ishmael. But there's a further distinction. God says of Ishmael, as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and multiply him greatly. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. Genesis 17, verse 20 to 21. The covenant is with Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. Genesis 17 and 19. The promise of nations to Abraham's descendant Isaac is part of a covenant. It is part of a promise God has made. The earth shall have nations formed from all of its peoples. Abraham's descendants through Isaac do not have an exclusive part in that process, but they shall have a significant place in that process. So the covenant with Abraham regarding the promise of nations is not something new, though the means by which a multitude of nations are to be populated is now Abraham specific, though not exclusively. In other words, this is not an exclusive grant that only Abraham's descendants shall become nations. God is not saying only Abraham's descendants shall become nations. Turning then to the second major aspect of this covenant, which is the promise that kings shall come from these nations. Is this a statement that God will make kings? Is this a statement that God will finally establish kings and kingdoms that can then rule on his behalf and execute judgment? Is God saying to Abraham, look, I don't think my approach to punish evildoers has worked too well before or after the flood? Is he saying, I'm not going to be God no more. I'm going to give y'all the authority to be God and execute judgment on my behalf? Is he saying that? Is he saying, let's change that arrangement worldwide? I will make kings from your offspring that can punish the people the right way when their evil acts occur, and not wait till only 4 righteous people are left in a wicked city, or 8 righteous people are left upon the face of an evil earth before I save only them and put the rest to death. Is that what God is contemplating here? Is that what God is saying when he says to Abraham, I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you? Genesis chapter 17, verse 6. Is that what the text says? No, God is not saying any of these things. Don't read what is not stated. God is stating the fact. Kings will come, nothing more. God is describing rather than proposing a fundamental change. God is not saying, I will make these kings. God is not declaring these future kings have any inherent authority. He is not saying these kings have a right to rule, or their commands automatically oblige deference just because they come from Abraham's lineal descendants. He is not dictating how a man may become a king or a woman a queen, nor is he saying that all such kings will act lawfully. God's promise about kings is not these kings will act lawfully or obey his law. They may, but they may not. God does not say. God is not stepping off the throne and elevating Abraham's future kings to a position of perfect kingship. This is not what is being promised. This is not what is being proposed. No speculations are part of the covenant. We shall see this in greater relief when we examine the history of Israel and Judah and their foolish request for a human king in 1 Samuel chapter 8. As to the third aspect of the covenant, God grants specific land to a specific people and nation. This makes perfect sense, as a nation without land is not much of a nation. We see God is very thoughtful in this covenant with Abraham. He covers all the bases, nations, kings, and specific land. But also recall that all mankind was previously directed to scatter over the face of the earth and occupy and work their land into which they migrated. So nothing in this third aspect is different on that score. What is different is that God is saying he will now give specific real estate to a specific nation, as contrasted to his prior general direction that families should hold and enjoy real property. Now let's see how God fulfills this covenant. Perhaps we can understand better what God has in mind with kings and kingdoms and civil government. At this point, however, we ought to resist the urge to jump to the conclusion that because God said to Abraham that kings shall come from you, that ergo all of the world's leaders, presidents, and civil governments now in existence or arguably traceable to Abraham are put there, authorized, or appointed by God himself to rule over their peoples by a divine right or otherwise. The powers that be are ordained by God. That don't mean Donald Trump was ordained by God. That don't mean your senator, your legislator, anybody that's working in the government, civil, state, legislative, federal, ICE, and y'all are not appointed by God. That do not mean that. Get that clear. So, that is far from the truth. Don't be a simpleton or drink the political Kool-Aid about this or conclude that civil government is therefore from God. God still has his rules for the nations in place. He is still the judge of the nations. He has not delegated that away. Any nation that commits abominations so the land becomes unclean will be judged by God. Leviticus 18, verse 26 to 28. His covenant with Abraham does not leave God with nothing to do except figure out how to save the human race. He is still God, and his government of the nations and enforcing the peace is without end. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 7. We must understand this as a day-to-day reality, not as some pie in the sky future spiritualized judgment. There is a future war against the kings of the nations, Revelation 19, verse 14 to 19, and a final judgment of every man and woman ever alive, Revelation chapter 20, verse 11 to 13. But what we are referring to in this chapter is God's ever-present authority and power over the nations of the earth to this very day. Deuteronomy 8 and verse 20, O Lord God of our fathers, are you not God in heaven? You rule over all the kingdoms of the nations, and your hand are power and might, so that none is able to withstand you. 2 Chronicle chapter 20 and verse 6. So God has authority over all the nations of the earth. But for Abraham and later for Israel and then Judah, he offers something more. His promise of specific land to Abraham was only fulfilled in the time when Israel left Egypt. At that time, God will offer to be that nation's king in residence, live among them, make specific laws for them as a legislative body, implement and enforce those laws as a king, and judge the people by those laws as a judge. Granting of land to Abraham is the forerunner of a civil government yet to come that the world has never seen. As to the other nations, they are bound to what they have been given. They have not been given a civil government by God. They have, like Abraham, been given family, its own authority structure of husband and wife, parents and children. They have been given purpose in life, exercise dominion over their own land according to their clans and nations, and use and replenish the earth to sustain them. Remember what we talked about in the beginning before I started this reading, right? That God instituted languages at first, not even nations. He divided their languages into different geographical locations, and then later they became nations and didn't give nobody authority to rule over nobody. So from Noah to Adam's covenant, we didn't get the kings to the David, right? Or Saul, first king. So why did God set up all the nations in this way? He made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Acts 17:26-27. That is the purpose of nations, that they should seek God and find him. A nation which fails this purpose is unworthy of the designation. Do you know of a nation that now seeks after finding God? Or do they rage against him through their schools and government officials? Do they plot in vain in their congresses and legislators? Do they take counsel with their judiciary, Nolan Wells, against the Lord and his anointed? Psalms chapter 2, verse 1-3, Psalm 102, verse 18-22, Psalm 148 and verse 11. Ponder these questions the next time your church mechanically prays that God would bless our governmental leaders and give them wisdom. Read Psalm 109 for something different. As for the covenant God made with Abraham, it was basically a modified family covenant. It involved making many more nations and one nation with offspring through one specific family line with specific land for a special purpose beyond that previously given to all families from Adam to Noah. God was setting the stage through Abraham about his forthcoming offer to this family line in the course of time to live in a specific land for a specific purpose, to be the earthly king, legislator, and judge of the one nation set aside for the special purpose of being a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. See Exodus chapter 19, verse 4-5. That is the legal core of Abraham's covenant. Not that kings or civil government come from God. God is carrying on the family theme. And don't let some theologian tell you that the covenant is merely spiritual. So, why was Moses not a king or supreme judge, but a ruler and redeemer by God's design? Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make them know the statutes of God and his laws. Exodus chapter 18, verse 15-16. This Moses, whom they rejected, saying, who made you a ruler and a judge? This man God sent as both ruler and redeemer by the hand of the angel who appeared to him in the bush. Acts chapter 7, verse 35-36. At the same time, the candid citizen must confess that if the policy of the government upon vital questions affecting the whole people is to be irrevocably fixed by decisions of the Supreme Court, the instant they are made in ordinary litigation between parties and personal actions, the people will have ceased to be their own rulers, having to that extent practically resigned their government into the hands of that eminent tribunal. President Abraham Lincoln, first inaugural address, March 4th, 1861. One of the reasons probably why he was assassinated, giving too much power to the people. Pharaohs, the good, bad, and ugly. Let us fast forward from Abraham to the time of Moses. Moses will receive the law about 2,513 Anno Mundi, or years since creation. Recall that Abraham had many sons. Each son of Abraham and their generations became nations. They also were geographically defined in specific parcels of land. But Abraham's son Isaac and Isaac's son Jacob and Jacob's 12 sons named in Genesis are significant in terms of our search for how God thinks about civil government. Jacob's sons were Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. If you know anything about the Bible and the history of these 12 men whose families grew into the 12 tribes of Israel, you'll know that they relocated to Egypt and initially lived under very favorable conditions. You will also know that at a certain point in time, a new pharaoh of Egypt came to power and reduced the free people of Israel to servitude and hard labor. We now come to the point in our chronology where we must ask a few more questions related to civil government and kings. First, who was Pharaoh? And did he rule by a grant of authority from God? Did he force Israel into hard labor because Pharaoh was God's servant, just doing God's will? Was Pharaoh God's minister to do good, as enslavement was beneficial to the Egyptians? We are first introduced to Pharaoh's back in Genesis chapter 12, verse 15, and sketch something of that Pharaoh's character. Recall that Pharaoh saw Abraham's wife Sarai and took Abraham's wife into his household. There's no description here that Pharaoh was placed on his throne by God. The Bible simply states Pharaoh was supreme over other pharaohs, and this is how the Egyptians ran their country. We noted that approximately 2,075 to 2,275 years into human history from creation, our brief introduction to pharaohs and kings was marked by murder, use of force, defilement of marriage, deportation, enslavement, theft of property, and war. Abraham also told Abimelech, king of Gerar, that Sarah was his sister because he feared his own death, and that king took her into the king's household. God declared he will kill Abimelech and his family and household if he did not return her. This defiling violence seemed widely practiced. Genesis chapter 20. Are subsequent pharaohs or kings any different? The next major pharaoh we encounter elevates one of Jacob's sons, Joseph, from slavery to second in command of all of Egypt. Genesis 41 and 41. Slavery seems an ever-present feature of Egyptian society and government. God never gave Adam or Noah the right to enslave anyone. Kings just did what seemed expedient, nor does this Pharaoh respect the command of God to Adam and then to Noah and all men and women thereafter to spread out over the earth and subdue it, to work the soil and raise a family for their own purpose. He forced Hebrews to work the soil and improve the land of Egyptians. He relieved Egyptians of the commands of God to take care of their own families. Nor does Pharaoh's conduct establish a basis for biblical taxation. The story of Joseph's rise to power and his subsequent control of the Egyptian government is a favorite for those who see within it some universal principle of taxation and government's right to confiscate the increase of a person's property. Genesis 47, verse 24 to 26. They claim that since Joseph was appointed by Pharaoh and Joseph made a law that government take 1/5 of the harvest every year, this somehow establishes a worldwide universal precedent reflecting the legitimate authority of civil governments elsewhere to follow or everywhere to follow. The argument is that because Joseph did it, it must have been consistent with God's will and then established a rule for nations today. However, nothing could be further from the truth. The scripture is clear that Pharaoh appointed Joseph, not God. It is also clear that while God used the event to save Israel from famine, this in no way set a precedent for governmental ownership of all land or confiscation of 1/5 of the fruit of the land or labor. It sets no rule for any nation that its government shall receive, or that by God's will we must pay Caesar 20% of our increase, income, or property, no more or less. Again, we see the Bible describing what is happening rather than establishing as a rule of general applicability either Pharaoh's or Joseph's organized theft and enslavement. It should also be noted that while God gave Joseph the true interpretations of Pharaoh's dreams, nothing in those dreams or God-inspired interpretations also included the solution Joseph suggested. That solution of organization, confiscation of private property was completely suggested by Joseph, not God. That solution was contrary to God's prior command that families should work their land and enjoy its produce to sustain them. Finally, we get to the particular Pharaoh whom Moses met. The new things we see regarding this Pharaoh is that God hardened his heart. Exodus chapter 7, verse 3. He increased the severity of slavery. Exodus chapter 1, verse 11 to 14. He tried to kill Moses. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 15. And he ordered the nationwide murder of Hebrew males after birth by casting into the Nile River, or into the Nile. Exodus chapter 1, verse 22. Moses' mother eventually obeyed only the letter of this lawless decree by placing Moses as a baby in the Nile, albeit in a basket. Exodus chapter 2, verse 3. Hebrew midwives and parents were not obligated by God to obey Pharaoh's tyrannical decree or submit to his rule as a matter of divine obligation. Many did not. This refusal was not an act of defying God's will, but an act of obeying the will of God. It is God's will that we assist others to bear children, rather than assist others in killing children, born or unborn. Is this the conviction of midwives today? Regretfully, infertility is no longer considered a curse. Children are the curse. Good thing Moses' mother did not seek or receive the help of Planned Parenthood on the one hand, or wait for the law to be changed on the other. Moses, not a supreme judge by God's design. How far into human history are we from creation? Moses was born in Egypt about 2,300 years from creation. Moses was 80 years old when he spoke to Pharaoh, and Israel left Egypt. Perhaps now it is time to make Moses king. Perhaps he should be made supreme judge. Let's see what God did. God said to Moses, "Come, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." Exodus chapter 3 and verse 10. That is principally what Moses was first asked to do, and Moses did that. Later on, we see that Moses also sat as a judge of the people. He was not, however, a supreme judge. He was a circuit court judge, and perhaps an intermediate appellate judge. The people stood around Moses from morning till evening, waiting for their case to be called. Exodus chapter 18, verse 13. Some things about the judicial system never seemed to change, but Moses was not the final or supreme judge of Israel. No, as we will see, God never relinquished that authority and position. God was the supreme judge, the supreme court. There's a deeper lesson to be learned in this arrangement. Moses did not claim his judicial opinions were supreme. He did not even claim that his opinions were binding or enforceable by his own will or orders. He did not say that his opinions were equal to or superior to the law of God. Is this example of Moses' approach and humility to the act of judging cases and controversies a rule or guide for judges to follow today? Is it a best practice, or is it outdated or simply not applicable? In the movie that the spook that sat by the door, they wouldn't let that brother, they took that brother movie out of the theaters. Now the whole CIA or the FBI, they study that. After they took it out of theaters, the FBI used that as mandatory study. Is it a best practice, or is it outdated or simply not applicable? It is certainly different, indeed contrary to the modern American approach to judging and the doctrine of judicial supremacy. In a nutshell, judicial supremacy is the view that federal courts and the United States Supreme Court in particular are supreme over the other two branches of government. We are told they are supreme over the Constitution too. A federal judge's opinion is regarded as the Constitution's exclusive meaning. That opinion is the law of the land without regard to what the other branches of government have to say. The doctrine maintains that the opinions of the Supreme Court justices are the law of the land. A high watermark of this approach was announced in Cooper v. Aaron 358 U.S. 1, 1958. This famous case dealt with the plan of gradual desegregation of the races in the public schools of Little Rock, Arkansas. In its opinion, the court remarked that Article VI of the Constitution makes the Constitution the supreme law of the land. So far, so good. In 1803, Chief Justice Marshall, speaking for an unanimous court, calling the Constitution the fundamental and paramount law of the nation, declared in Marbury v. Madison, 1 Cranch, 137, 1803, that it is empathetically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. This is the legitimate power of judicial review found in Article 3, Section 2. From this legitimate recognition of the power of judicial review, the Cooper versus Aaron Court took a demagogic step further. The court first deceitfully expanded its own opinion in Marbury, asserting that Marbury actually declared the basic principle that the federal judiciary is supreme in the exposition of the law of the Constitution. Recall that Chief Justice Marshall said the judiciary has a duty to say what the law is. He said nothing, however, about the court's opinions as supreme. Cooper added the supreme element. The Constitution, however, grants no supreme expository power to the court. Read Articles 3 and VI, and you will not find it. What will be found in Article VI is the truth that the Constitution, laws, and treaties shall be the supreme law of the land. Nothing is said about Supreme Court opinions being supreme law, let alone being law at all. Nothing, not one iota. The Constitution extends no power to the court to claim that even its legitimate constitutionally based opinions are the sole and exclusive meaning of the Constitution itself. The prophet Jeremiah described this deceit. He saw it at work in his own day. God told him to write about it this way. An appalling and horrible thing has happened in the land. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests rule at their direction. My people love to have it so. But what will you do when the end comes? Jeremiah 5, verse 30 to 32. Moses, a judge under law. Is that what Moses did? Did he rule at his discretion? Did he act like our Supreme Court today? No, he did not. Sorry to disappoint you. Divorced from its mythical characterization as the cornerstone of our constitutional democracy, judicial supremacy as currently practiced is simply a declaration by the Supreme Court that they have an extra constitutional right to rule at their discretion. This appalling and horrible thing is not new, but it is still appalling and horrible even today, nor is their appalling handwork limited to Roe versus Wade. Obergefell versus Hodges, 2015. We should not look here to validate the true nature of judicial power, but rather to witness the claim that the laws of God laid down from the beginning of time regarding human life and marriage are subject to fake judicial revision. We should rather look to a different text. Moses said that the people come to me to inquire of God when they have a dispute. They come to me and I decide between one person and another, and I make them know the statutes of God and his laws. Notice that Moses did not claim that God made him a judge. What is happening here is that the people asked Moses to judge their disputes. Moses didn't say all cases must come to him. He did not assert any authority to resolve any dispute, nor did he declare he had the power to enforce any judgment he rendered. He decided the dispute and made the law known to the people. Moses knew how to write a good judicial opinion, applying the law to the facts. He knew the statutes of God and his laws and judged by them. When hard cases came along, they were referred to others. God, however, demanded Moses ensure compliance with the decisions of these judges. He said to Moses, be careful to do everything other judges in hard cases, instruct you to do. Act according to whatever they teach you and the decisions they give you. Do not turn aside from what they tell you, to the right or to the left. Deuteronomy 17, verse 8 to 13. Moses describes judging where the people come to him and he makes known the law of God. He decides the case. Moses had no monopoly on judging. Moses doesn't say, I am the only one that can judge. Later on, after listening to his father-in-law, Moses establishes a judicial system calling for one judge for every 10 persons. Moses established a system of appellate courts. But even here, there's no scripture to support the argument that these courts were either exclusive or compulsory. People came to these courts voluntarily to resolve civil disputes. Remember, Moses was first rejected by the Israelites, saying, who made you a ruler and a judge? God rather sent him as a ruler and redeemer by the hand of an angel who appeared to him in the bush. Acts 7, 35 to 36. Judging was part of that task and assignment, but it was not based on force or violence employed by Moses to enforce his own judgments. In the next few chapters, we will see that Moses was also made a ruler. But what does that mean? A king, a pharaoh, a god with a lowercase g? Looking ahead beyond the first 2,400 years of history, we are between 2,400 and 2,500 years into human history. We have seen examples of kings and pharaohs, rulers and judges. We have seen no evidence, however, that God established any of these civil rulers or empowered them to rule over others or placed in their hand any right to enforce their will or decisions upon anyone. Enforcement of the decisions of other judges' orders fell to Moses as an executive function to follow the decisions and law of God carefully. Moses was appointed as a ruler and redeemer for Israel for their emancipation and to judge and to enforce the decisions of other judges. God has certainly not declared that judges, however, enjoy any power to make law or ever judge with deceit in their mouth. The words of his mouth are trouble and deceit. He has ceased to act wisely and do good. Psalms 36 and 3. The best that can be deduced here is that their authority is to declare what law then in existence applies to the facts before them. The absence of a mighty civil government or supreme lawmaking court existing by the command or will of Almighty God at this time in history would seem preposterous and unbelievable to the average person today. How could 2,500 years of human history pass without at least God establishing a civil government, a king, or a judge to enforce his law, put people to death, or at least jail or fine them? Could we at least expect a zoning administrator, truant officer, or dog catcher, neighborhood watch groups, your neighbors spying on you through their Ringer camera? Or our search must just seem wrong-headed, especially to those who have never been asked to even contemplate the matters heretofore discussed. Getting new cars from the police department because you're spying on your neighbors, they're giving you police money. The only authority structures God actually established are marriage and family. The only authority structures God actually established are marriage and family. The only authority structures God actually established are marriage and family. These institutions, we're going to get to the rest later, y'all. I know we cooking up. And I know the devil, Satan's kingdom, is mad right now. They can't stand this truth, man. They hate it. But they got to listen to it to see how they can turn it against the people. They got to turn the truth into a lie. So they have to listen. They can't just mind their own business and be evil. All praises to the Most High. They can't mind their business and be evil. They have to fight against the truth. No evil can exist without good, y'all. But darkness, they can't comprehend the light. That's why they can only try to take it and say, well, this is what I think it means. Thou shalt not kill mean I can't kill my family. I can kill my neighbor though. But the Bible say thou shalt love thy neighbor. So they're, the people that hate God, they want to twist his word and try to deceive other people who don't have faith, who might not believe. You know what I'm saying? That's all Satan can do. He can't preach. You can't get out here and preach. You ain't never about to do that. You probably get sunburn or suntan, fuck around and die, catch cancer or something. You can't preach. None of y'all Neanderthals can preach standing up in my face. Let me hear you preach the Bible to me. You Neanderthals that like to stalk me. Can y'all preach? Hell no, you can't preach. But you going to hell if you don't repent from all that wickedness that you do. That's a fact. According to the Bible. God is angry with the wicked every day. He said, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth, right? The kings of the earth, kings that was not set up by God, you know, like King Edwards and, you know, them dudes in the Catholic Church that y'all call Pope. Yeah, kings that are not appointed by God. Even your fake pastor, I don't care who you think you is. What make you think you was appointed by God more than anybody else breathing on this face of this earth? What make y'all think y'all pastor was appointed more than your neighbor that's reading the Bible that ain't got no church home, no denomination that he's a part of? What make you think your pastor's superior and his interpretation or understanding of the scriptures should be followed, but not the dude that nobody follow and everybody hate and talk behind his back, right? They want to kill him. How you know he ain't the one really preaching the truth and is convicting people and is making them want to kill him so they don't have to hear the truth? But the people who go, yeah, let's celebrate Easter and say we love God, they love that, right? But the word said, you shall be hated for my name's sake. So we know the truth. The truth shall make you free from all the lies and the corruption and the darkness that people are living under. Some people are trapped in this darkness and they don't think it's a way out. They don't believe in the Bible because they was taught by people that God is not real and Jesus is just religious. And you know what I'm saying? All this stuff that they throw at people to make them hate the Bible and hate the people that's teaching it. So you would never get to this truth, man. And no, your family has more authority than the government. That's why they say governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from deriving their authority from the consent of the governed. This is why if somebody does something without your consent, you can always go back and sue them for that. It's like dealing with police officers. They say, can we search you? They ain't got a warrant. You say, no, I don't consent. But they continue to go ahead and search you, and you can prove that they did this and you didn't consent. You can go back and sue them. So yeah, have to know your rights, y'all. And these are important topics. A lot of people run from and hide from because they don't want to make themselves seem like they challenging the government. But if you don't cover this and rightfully divide this, the Bible say, study to show thyself. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15, or I think it's 2 Timothy. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So if you don't cover these topics and study this stuff, nobody can understand it and teach it to their children. So Satan is left to keep deceiving and stuff like that. So you waiting on the government to do something about what's going on in your children's school, the curriculums that they're teaching and stuff like that. Like, nobody's protested against the children being read homosexual books in the school. But when Trump and them start deporting the immigrants, they all protested. They used the children to skip school and protest against ICE. But nobody protested before Trump was in office and they was reading homosexual gay teachers in the school and all that stuff. Nobody protested against that. So this was all political when they did that with them children. And that's foul. That's wicked. Putting children involved in politics, man. Let them grow up and decide to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's wrong. using them as pawns. Yeah, they did all that political stuff. Since y'all want to be political, since y'all can use the children to protest against ICE, use them to all skip school and never go to school again until they get reparations. When schools start back up, all the black children should not go to school until Nolan Wells case get justice. They give us reparations. Since y'all can use the children to skip for ICE, right? Well, they didn't give us reparations in hundreds of years. This stuff with the immigrants just started happening this year, a couple years ago when Trump got in office or whatever. So let's all protest for the children, all the black families that ain't getting reparations. Let's boycott America's system. How about that? Martin Luther King taught boycott. We ain't gonna argue. We ain't gotta march. Let's boycott them. We want schools without government mandated curriculums. Let's boycott the school system. Nobody send their children to school. All black people. Let's boycott the military and the government. We want a government with a military that's not racist, that give the black soldiers the coat of arms and the Medal of Honor without going through all this hassle and giving them the jobs where they can be the leaders with the guns and ammunition. They don't never put them in the high positions. It started out racist in the all way when they started the army. Let's boycott everything. Because when they take away the DEI programs, that's not them boycotting. That's them taking away everything that our people fought for in the civil rights movements. Our people fought to have these DEI programs so they can't discriminate against black people when you get a job, when you're filling out applications, when you're looking for apartments and stuff like that. So they're bringing back segregation without even saying it. In certain communities where you got majority of white landlords, you know what I'm saying, or the black ones are part of white supremacy. They're not on no Black Panther stuff. They're not on no I'm for my people only. I'm only going to rent to more black people like white people do. They're not on that. If you study the statistics of all of the landlords in New York State, you'll see that they're giving more property to white people. Apartments and houses, they're all getting rented to maybe Mexicans and white people. Mexicans that was illegal 2 years ago. But y'all protested for this. Y'all used the children to skip school for this. So illegal Mexicans can own homes and we can never fix our homelessness problems in Skid Row in California, in New York, in Kensington and Philadelphia. And they complaining about the dude who's outside talking about somebody need to do something. The government won't help them because they helped all the immigrants. Remember in East Philadelphia when the children that's from that city, that grew up in that city, they had to sit outside and wait 2 hours so all the immigrants can go to first period and go to their class. Remember when they was taking the school bus and y'all couldn't get on the school bus? Nobody protested for that. Not the violent stuff that y'all did. Man, y'all did terrorist stuff. Breaking into FBI vehicles, and then they put children involved with all that shit. Man, that shit is so wicked. They was breaking into the FBI vehicles, spray painting them, taking their paperwork, putting all their information out online. This is terrorist stuff. The FBI ain't never do nothing about that. They didn't do nothing about all these people. They still moving and doing what they doing, protesting and fighting. They stay online. Chud the Builder and all these dudes. They invest in all them type of dudes. White people walk around. You know you're not cool with this person. You know you ain't got no relationship with them. You actually have an encounter where you're trying to get people involved to make it look like this person did something to you. So why the fuck you keep coming around them and stalking them? Stay away. You making it your duty to keep being up under someone is stalking. Now when our people start going to the fucking hospital and complaining that this is causing us mental problems and your ass gets sued and all the evidence is brought into court, keep this shit the fuck up. Because this is traumatizing. And they know what the fuck they doing. Stalking, harassing, eavesdropping, hunting people down. Playing Ku Klux Klan games until God light fire upon that ass. to the fire of God and start raining down like judgment. Judgment rain down like raindrops. Judgment pour down on your ass like raindrops. Only reason why people feel comfortable keep being so prideful and they know what they're doing deep down in their heart is because God ain't really bring sickness on them. He didn't kill none of their family members. He didn't kill nobody close to them. So they don't feel no pain. So they think everything is all fun and games. Let them go through some judgments, some harsh judgments. Now, I hope it don't happen. I hope you can come to the knowledge of the truth. I hope you preach the good news and stop being a coward. I hope you come to the faith and believe the gospel that Christ died and rose on the third day according to the scriptures, or you will die and perish in your sins, you and your children. You and your children will die and perish in your sins because you ain't going to do nothing but grow up and teach them to hate Christ. You're going to be an antichrist, an anti-Semitic, antichrist, devil worshiper. Because we the true Jews, the tribe of Israel. They stole our identity and stole our names and stole our culture, man. We come from all nations, but one of our history, our most sacred and holy history starts back in the promises that was given to Abraham, that he would make his seed, and then you got the children of Isaac. Children of Isaac, right? Jacob and Esau, and then Jacob, who later became Israel. So these were promises that was given to Jacob and Israel. So you got covenants with Noah. We got covenant with Adam. We all are part of those covenants with Adam and Noah to be fruitful and multiply, to create families, to have to get married and stuff like that. We all are part of those covenants. But the Davidic covenant, what else? Abraham, David. There's no Moses covenant, really. Those were specifically with Israel. So the Bible deals with like a group of people who was chosen by God. Gentiles can receive salvation, but the history in the Old Testament, it can't be changed. They created idolatry, making the Messiah, who y'all call Jesus, look like a white man. So that made a lot of people think that the Bible was a white man's book and they created it and they wrote it and all that, but they didn't write it. There wasn't even no Gentiles living in Israel. The Gentiles that they talk about in the Old Testament were all black people. So like the pagans or the Egyptians, the Amorites, the Canaanites, these were all black people. So white people didn't have a relationship with God until Christ died and rose, and then he ascended into heaven. And this is where they sent Paul out to go preach salvation to all nations through Christ. So this is where it came into Rome and England and Constantine and all of them started to corrupt it and all that. And this is where you start getting those pictures. It's crazy that once God sent Paul out and sent salvation to the Gentiles, these Neanderthals started coming out the caves, finding out how to draw and stuff like that. Because we've been drawing and we was doing arithmetic and had ancient civilizations thriving. They were still up in the caves. And when they got salvation, man, they go out and corrupting the Bible, making all these church denominations and doing all this stuff, turning his pictures, making pictures that they never even knew from the first place. How do y'all get these pictures? You know what I'm saying? Where in the Bible do it say they had pictures that they was looking at of Christ? You know what I'm saying? So, and they still don't even feel ashamed about it. A lot of people still promote it. Like I just seen this black sister. I think her name is Brianna Janae or something like that. She's a Christian rapper. She had a picture on, maybe it's on Facebook probably, and she had a post up, right? And it's saying, would y'all support my clothing line if I started one? But it got a picture of that. It's like the one with the hair. He got the long hair and like a beard on and stuff like that. But it's no skin color, but still, it's an idol. All pictures is idols. And I understand what the Hebrew Israelites was doing and what they doing. This is why I don't really keep condemning them brothers too hard. Like sometimes I go through like I guess seasons where I be so upset at these brothers and the doctrines they push. I go off on everybody. And then sometimes I understand what they're doing and I see that they being led by man, not the Holy Spirit. So whoever's like the leaders in these groups are directing them to move in certain directions, to believe in certain interpretations of certain scriptures. So I can't really even blame them. All I gotta do is hope that they come to full understanding of the scriptures. That's all. Ain't gonna stop my faith or change my faith on what I believe. Cause like, all right, I understand the whole position of the Hebrew Israelites with making the pictures of the black Jesus. I know it's idolatry. I'm not saying it's good or it's right, but that whole white Jesus picture, it was traumatizing to our people from America to Africa and all these other new modern countries that we call by these names, Latin American and Caribbeans or whatever that we call. It was traumatizing. So to counter all that, they started making the black Jesus and teaching that, well, everything you was taught about how you think the Bible is a white man book, it's not. It really is telling a story about people that look just like you. Because you ain't gonna be interested in it if you think, man, this ain't got nothing to do with me. This is a bunch of white nationalist stuff. It's confusing. Trying to read it, you can't understand it. I remember when I first tried to read the Bible, you read a whole page and don't even know what you read. It's like a mystical, it's like a mystery book. Like, this is fairy tales. That's how, like, when I first tried to read it, I think I had a new international version too. I just don't know. It wasn't working. So Satan's job is to keep the world with that mind frame that I had when I first tried to read the Bible. I was like 24 or 26 years old, and I'm 39 now. I'm 39. That's why certain things that people do, it aggravates me because I'm grown. You know what I'm saying? I might not look the age that I am, but you better go play them fucking games with a child. I'm a grown ass man. Gray hair's almost about to take over my whole fucking beard. Go play them games with a little child at the playground somewhere. Especially if you grown, you should be ashamed of yourself. But I'll get back with y'all later, y'all. Matter of fact, let me see something. I gotta charge my phone up because it's about to die. I didn't even know it was on 1. But anyway, man, like I said,
when y'all say certain things in the chat and stuff like that, man, you can't talk to me like that, brother. I'm a grown man. That stuff don't apply to me, man. That stuff is for young people, brothers that's young. Once you get grown and you reach a certain age, you get ways that, like, it might be hard for you to change, or it might be something that you're conditioned to doing based on your circumstances or something like that. You feel me? So I'll be honest with you, the circumstances of being in poverty and not having the finances that you need, it could cause you to smoke more than the average person who, or just the same person who had enough money to take care of all his little responsibilities, or he wasn't struggling and behind and stuff like that, and bills and stuff like that. So, you know what I'm saying? That's why I be like, I don't know how to explain it, but certain people, brother, we are just at that age where we've been doing what we've been doing for a long time, and it takes life changes to change it. You know, our condition in life will have to change before we stop smoking and stuff like that. Yeah, like if I get a different type of job, I will have to stop smoking. If I go back to school, I'll stop smoking as much as I'm doing, but I probably won't stop. If I got a, if I ran across enough money where I had enough money to run like a business, Lord willing, like, and really, 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 really run a business and be focused towards just really working on that. Like if I had enough money to invest in just making music for the Lord, I probably wouldn't smoke as much. I probably would try to quit because I feel like I want to do this with my whole soul. So I want to try to do it sober. Well, not sober, but because you know this don't make me like not sober. There's no definition of the Bible telling us that herbs make you not sober. So I'll probably try to do like 6 months if I was in a good position where I could just serve Christ, give it my all, and you know change my diet for a few and see how things work out. Yeah, if I could, I would try that. But I don't think it's possible. All I know is today's date is Monday, August 3rd. And the Most High is good, man. Omnipotent, omnipresent. It's time to get to work and try to make changes. It's time to make changes, man. Keep chasing Christ. It's only gonna be so long you could keep picking and bullying on somebody. Working in a fucking network before y'all phone records start getting pulled and this shit starts showing everything and people start falling. That's what the fuck is about to happen. Cause ICE got the FBI and ICE and all them. They got the new technology where they can pull up your phone records and see everything. Nigga, if one of y'all get, if I report certain people to ICE, they gonna look in the phone records and they say everything y'all did and look back and see all your group chat texts and all that. That's why I'm just gonna keep sitting back, gathering the information and doing what I've been doing, just staying at peace. Content is king, and I got a whole lot of it, and I got content that's not on social media, and it's just like, man, I got so much stuff that I really, 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 really should be making like a documentary of this stuff, man, for real. Cause because they always like think that it's cool to do certain things and you know be all hostile and aggressive and violent towards people. It's a way how people can act hostile and aggressive without even yelling and stuff like that. They'll send a bunch of people after one person to just keep walking by them wherever you go and doing certain things. You're being hunted down, you're being followed, you're being harassed. So, and they all white nationalists too, most of them. Out of all of them, I probably say like maybe like 12% black people, a few Mexicans. It could be a lot of more black people. All I know is, man, walking in, walking in the faith and walking in the knowledge of the truth. It's a different. You feel different about life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm the type of person I chill. Mostly have my windows up. Today, I wrote them down, read the word. It was fucking hot in this car a little. Now it's dark, so it cooled down a little. So I got them up because smoking with the windows down sometimes it'll bring attention. People smell weed, they start walking near you. But my neighbors in the back, they got two chairs back here. So when they come down here, come out and smoke their joint sometime, nobody go walk up and act like they walking their dogs and all that. That's what these people be trying to do. When I come sit in my car, everybody act like they gotta throw their trash out, they walking their dogs. Man, that's some stalking shit, bro. It's almost like they in a group chat or some type of, you know, text group where they can just all communicate with each other and send a text, oh, he's here, or garbage time. You know what I'm saying? And some cold word or whatever they doing, and that shit is just organized, bro. It's always like it's mostly the same people. I had to call and put a claim in against Valvoline. So I've talked to the manager, and he said that somebody he knows seen the footage, but he didn't see the footage. So how am I supposed to trust you if you didn't even see the footage? I wanna see that y'all put the right amount of cords. And he said that he can't show me the camera or whatever. So I called back corporate and told them that, and they said that they're gonna have a general manager call me so I can go in and get the camera and look at it or something like that. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with this, man. All I know is my phone is not charging. It's on 1%. So I'm gonna end this live and I'll come back later, y'all. I appreciate y'all for even stopping in. And if you're watching this on the playback, obviously you will be because this live is over. Could you do me a favor and hit the like and share this out because it'll support and get the algorithm out there. I don't even be, out asking for support like money or none of that like that. saying? I've been struggling so long that I'm used to it now. So once you go through homelessness and all that, and it's like the only people that's gonna support is gonna support. So you start to just take it day by day and just focus on the small things. Don't even worry about. You start to just stop worrying about everything. Take it one day at a time. They're using all these little groups of people to just keep walking by and stuff like that. And then this little white little boy, he keep like trying to walk his dog here, come by my window, and you know what I'm saying? He got like a pit bull dog. He like a little young white boy who might like be in his 20s. Now, when I start recording and getting these people faces, and then it get put up on social media, and then they're getting ran through artificial intelligence, and their names is getting pulled and stuff like that, they're gonna learn not to harass and fuck with people because their phone records are gonna get ran. Intelligence agencies gonna be on y'all ass. Yeah, I hope and pray all this stuff is revealed. Every secret that's being hid, I pray it's all revealed. That's one thing about these phones. You can't hide nothing. So you might think you protected. You could be working with the police, and even they gonna turn on you when they get exposed. All police don't like each other. They kill each other, some of them. So when stuff go down, man, it go down. That's why I be trying to stay at peace, man. Stay to myself. The attention you trying to give me, that's not gonna be the attention that I'm gonna give back. Cause my mind is just like, man. I'm at peace. You bring foolishness or any type of darkness near me, I'm a detective. And I'm gonna call down for God to see judgment, man, and angels to protect me, man. That's what I be asking God, to send angels down from heaven and heavenly guided men and women who are strangers, because the Bible says be careful entertaining strangers unawares, because some of you might have been entertaining the angels. So, and they would come and approach you, or they would just come into your life and give you the information you need. A messenger, like, you know what I'm saying? It could be something that you're just not getting the right message on. It could be anything. You know what I'm saying? Not always material, not always financial things. It can mostly be spiritual. And then that spiritual message that they give you, if you take heed and follow it, it can maybe change things for you materially and financially, but that's not the purpose and reason for it. It's the, give glory to God, and for you to go out and start doing the same thing. You can't just take the message and say, well, this is for me only. But it's hard, y'all. It's hard. I don't even got my clothes out. I'm gonna have to come back downstairs again. I'm just about to go charge my phone and my laptop because they both died. And I'll come back down later. I'm gonna end this, y'all. My phone gonna die. It just went up to 2% that whole time. But I gotta hurry up and cut it off